President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke to South Africans in the evening of Sunday, May 26, 2024, just 3 days before national and regional provincial elections taking place on the 29th. Now, one thing the ANC can be accused of is being anything but honest. This opaque party is comical, listening to the litany of fairy tales that he described and successes that were non-existent. But that's not what the topic of this video is. Something is going on here. The ANC is up to something fishy, or at least something smells very rotten. This political party is broke, literally bankrupt, at least according to the Gauteng sheriff in late November of 2023. Since the Political Party Funding Act was signed into law in April of 2021, parties have been required to declare any donations over 100,000 Rand. And that reporting requirement has frightened away many potential donors who want to cozy up to the ANC, but don't let anyone know whom they're in bed with. But that all comes to an end now, at least for the time being. On May 7th, Cyril Ramaphosa signed into law an amendment of the Political Party Funding Act. Civil society groups and opposition parties have voiced concerns over the recently accented Electoral Matters Amendment Act. According to the electoral nonprofit My Vote Counts, the act is deeply flawed and unconstitutional for enabling secrecy around party funding and leaving gaps in the Political Party Funding Act. The new laws remove the clause in the act which sets the 15 million annual limit on donations from a single donor and the 100,000 Rand threshold for declaring donations to the Independent Electoral Commission. So it takes all of the stops off and takes the transparency away. For its part, the Democratic Alliance has rejected the attempted money grab by the ANC as the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill was passed in the National Assembly. Clause 29 of that bill does exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to do according to the Constitution. It increases the proportionality of the party funding allocation from 66.6 or 2/3 to 90% and decreases the equitable allocation from 1/3 to just 10%. So what does that mean? So what? Well, it has the net effect of giving an extra 50 million Rand to the ANC in the next year alone, while smaller parties' income is drastically reduced. Wow. So the ANC has effectively changed the law to give itself a ton more money and punish smaller parties. That hardly seems fair. So let's talk about the dodgy finances of a party that welches on a debt for over 4 years, fails to pay its staff, holds lavish parties, and discloses donations that cannot possibly cover its expenses. Are we supposed to believe that small donors have handed the African National Congress over 120 million Rand or so since November of 2023? This is implausible at best, fiction at worst. So who are the ANC's big donors? Well, the ANC's major donors include the Chancellor House Trust, Bato Trust, Naspers, and United Manganese of Kalahari. Huh? Well, the Russia-linked United Manganese is ANC's biggest single donor. United Manganese of the Kalahari has paid the ANC 30 million Rand over the past 2 years, which makes up over 27% of the party's disclosed funding. And it's a company that's partly owned by a Russian oligarch. Their empowerment partner, Majestic Silver Trading, paid the ANC an additional 2.5 million in 2021. So there's 32.5 million of money that's flowed to the ANC through mining companies. Now, the investment company Chancellor House, which is the ANC's investment arm, also owns a slice of that mining company. So Chancellor House owns part of that mining company. Chancellor House also has stakes in several big energy projects and gave the ANC 22.5 million in 2021 alone. Mining and energy interests make up more than 40% of declared funding. Most of that goes to the ANC. Now you can see why mining endowments and BEE deals in the mining industry are so important to the ANC, because that's where it's getting its money. As of May 7th of 2024, the ANC received over 148 million in donations declared during the past 3 years since that law was put in place. But here's the problem. This party has no money. On November 24th of 2023, News 24 reports that the ANC failed to convince a court that it was not liable for 102 million Rand debt owed to a KwaZulu-Natal branding company, Bezuidenhout, for its 2019 general election campaign materials. Now, the Supreme Court of Appeal issued a judgment in an appeal application brought by the ANC to prove that it did not have a contractual agreement with Bezuidenhout Investments. Yeah, but they did have to. On May 23rd of 2023, the ANC was issued a writ by the Gauteng High Court, which ordered the execution of movable goods of the debtor, the ANC, at Latuli House to cause the realization by public auction of 102,465,000 Rand, together with interest of 10 2.25% per annum from 9 May 2019 to 31 August 2020, which meant that the interest alone was about 50 million rand additional. On December 4th of 2023, the sheriff of the Gauteng High Court rocked up at the ANC's headquarters at the Thule House in Johannesburg to search the building for assets. On December 22nd of 2023, ENCA reported the ANC had reached a settlement with Bezuidenhout. And if you go to the African National Congress's website, they confirmed that they settled out of court with Bezuidenhout, and the matter had been resolved in the best interest of both parties. Now, where did that 102 million rand come from? What about the interest, the other 48 or 50 million rand? We don't know. 150 million rand settled like that. Now, on the 8th of January, the African National Congress had its 112th anniversary birthday party with a huge celebration at Umbombela Stadium in Nelspruit. Media reports put the cost of that party alone at 20 million. So that's anywhere from 102 to 122 to 172 million rand that the ANC has magically made appear out of thin air. They must have genies. I want 200 million rand. Unable to pay their staff, the sheriff of Gauteng rocking up to inventory Lutuli House assets in December 2023, a magical settlement with Bezuidenhout, the lavish 112th birthday party, and plenty to spare for campaigning a few months later. Where is the money coming from? Looks like I might not be the only person asking this highly pertinent question. You see, on the 9th of January, 2024, Action SA wrote to the Independent Electoral Commission's chief executive for party funding, Mr. George Mahalangu, seeking an investigation in terms of Section 14 of the Party Funding Act into the ANC settlement of that debt with Bezuidenhout. On the 22nd of December, this is what they had to say, 2023, the ANC issued a two-line statement indicating that the settlement had been reached. No details were provided. Despite the fact that this debt arises from 2019 procurement of election materials, the settlement of liability in December 2023 places it squarely in the realm of the provisions of the Party Funding Act, which includes in its definition of a donation in kind as a provision of any service or good at below market value. So, any discount agreed to by Bezuidenhout of the 102 million cannot legally exceed the 15 million rand donation. So why didn't we hear about that? Any payments made by ANC donors to Bezuidenhout would be in kind, and the ANC would have to report that. Any payments made to Bezuidenhout investment by any individual ANC donor cannot exceed 15 million and will require no less than 7 donors to legally settle this debt. Yet we've heard nothing. On the 15th of March, 2024, the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa did launch an investigation into the funds used to settle the more than 102 million debt owed to Bezuidenhout. On May 9th of 2024, Action SA National Chairperson Michael Beaumont wrote on their website, the party's website, that the IEC is silent on the investigation into the ANC Bezuidenhout investment settlement. So they brought to the attention January. In March, the IEC began investigation. However, on May 9th, no resolution. The Action SA wrote to the IEC on the 18th of April to convey the imperative that the investigation be concluded before the elections, which are on May 29th. As of May 9th, they had received no response from the IEC. Now, 2 weeks prior to the election on May 29th, the media went all gaga over publicly available information that political parties have received 172 million in the most recent quarter, with the Democratic Alliance way out in front with over 60 million in donations. But these donations are what political parties publicly disclose. Smaller donations are also not reportable. Yet the ANC appears to have no problems financially on the campaign trail, even giving away food parcels. When Northern Cape residents arrived at the Balharos Sports Ground, where Ramaphosa held an Imbizo, they were each welcome with a food parcel, the meal of the day, an apple, juice, water, snack bar, sandwich, quarter chicken, archar, and 2 bread rolls, was prepared for more than 15,000 people attending the presidential Imbizo at the John Taolo Gawetse District Municipality in the Northern Cape. 15,000 people were fed. Where did that money come from? You got to wonder. Now, as of February 29th of this year, the total value of donations declared for the third quarter of 2023-2024 financial year to the ANC was 10 million rand in the third quarter. That makes it a total of 30 million rand for the financial year. So we're 3/4 way through that financial year, and they've only received 30 million rand. But they've paid out at least 102 million rand to Bezuidenhout. And if they didn't pay 102 million rand, then there was a discount, which must be reported. So somebody is lying somewhere, and there's some sort of misdeed going on here. 30 million rand they received. So how did they pay for the party at Nelspruit? How are they paying for the campaign? How are they paying their staff? And how in the world did they settle that debt? Well, in the Africa report, they said that in August of 2023, the ANC-aligned Johannesburg Property Company, a wealthy municipal entity, was reported to police for allegedly trying to pay off 900,000 Rand invoice for the ANC Youth League with taxpayers' money. Maybe that's how people are paying debt. Now, Roger Southall, the author of The New Black Middle Class in South Africa, published back in 2016, said we should not underestimate the ANC's determination to hang on to power, and it will find the money by hook or by crook. So how else might the ANC be getting money legitimately? Well, there's something called the Represented Political Parties Fund, the RPPF. A political party is entitled to an allocation from that fund for any financial year that it is represented in the National Assembly and or in any provincial legislature. In other words, no allocations are made from that fund to political parties which are represented just in municipal councils only, or that have no representation at all. There's also the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. This is a channel for donations in support of multi-party democracy at arm's length and leaves the distribution of the funds up to the Electoral Commission according to the prescribed formula. And that's the formula that the ANC is trying to change from 1/3 for representation and 2/3 for proportional to shift it around so that they get an extra 50 million a year. So that's two forms of funding. The Represented Political Parties Fund, taxpayer money given to political parties. The Multi-Party Democracy Fund, anonymous donations. And then there's the private funding of political parties. Political parties and donors must disclose donations, as I said, a cumulative total of over 100,000 Rand in a financial year. That means donations of 100,000 or more must be immediately disclosed, and any cumulative donations must be disclosed immediately when they exceed that total for 100,000 a year. The maximum donation amount for private donors is 15 million Rand per year. So what's going on? Well, maybe the ANC is baking its money because people are just giving it small donations. Seems implausible. The party turned to crowdfunding to pay for their party at Mbombela Stadium. But don't they have to disclose that resource? So ask yourself, how is the ANC paying its bills? Why is it so opaque? And can we trust a party with such odd financial circumstances? They can't pay their staff. The sheriff has to come and go through their assets. And when they did that, I should point out one thing very clearly here, because I'm talking about 102 million Rand settlement. And what about the interest that was due on another 40 to 50 million Rand, plus 20 million for the party, plus all this other stuff going on, yet they've only received 30 million Rand. In addition to that, it's not like they had money sitting in the bank, because when the sheriff went to Latuli House in December of 2023, the ANC's bank account had less than 5,000 US dollars in it. $5,000. My credit card bill for yard signs was nearly that large. And that's what the ANC, the National Liberation Movement of South Africa, had in its bank account. So how did it pay off these bills? And where did the money come from? These are questions the public should be asking as voters go to the polls on May 29th. But the media is largely silent on this issue. No analyst has delved into this. No one's taking close attention to this, which is what it needs. Sunlight is the best antiseptic. And if you want to cure a virus, expose it to sunlight. It'll degrade it very quickly. And maybe the truth will come out. So, ANC, where is your money coming from? If it's legit, just tell us. Good luck, South Africa. It's going to be a bumpy ride.